All right, so we're here with this is my good dear friend, good friend Kenny Mitchell, and we're here at Super Bowl in San Francisco. Why is this important for you? Being here as CMO at Levi's, what is the significance of San Francisco? Just to ground us in the context.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. Good to chat with you, homie. So many of you guys may know that Levi Strauss and Co. was founded in San Francisco back in 1853. So been around for a very long time. And it was, I want to say, 10 years ago or so when the new stadium was built for the 49ers that, Levi's decided to invest in, naming rights for that stadium to just show support for, for the Bay Area, kind of plant your flag, so to speak, in the Bay Area. I remember, ironically, I worked at a different company. I came to that Super Bowl and thought it was really phenomenal. So it's actually a privilege now, 10 years later, Super Bowl returns, and this is literally our home turf.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to make sure that we showed up in a really meaningful way. And it is somewhat connected to our strategy in terms of our brand and some of the things we've been doing over the last several years, where we're really focused on, showing up in the center of culture. Right. So
That's a really good starting point. Showing up at the center of culture. Like one would get why Levi's would show up in like fashion and music, but sports is kind of a bit of a head scratcher for the uninitiated. Can you illuminate on the relationship that Levi's has with sports and why not only being here in San Francisco with the Levi Stadium being the naming rights that the brand has, what's the relationship with Levi's and sports more broadly?
Great question. And it's interesting having a brand with so much deep and rich history. You start to understand and learn where the brand has shown up in really interesting and authentic ways. So a shout out for our team right now at our headquarters at Levi's Plaza. We actually have our vault, which is kind of our place where you can check out kind of the history of the brand. Right now, what we are exhibiting is all connected to sports and Levi's history in sports. And the history is really deep. So, for example, the last Olympics that were in LA back in '84, Levi's was actually the apparel sponsor for the Olympic team. We got the World Cup coming up, and Levi's was the apparel partner for several, I guess, global soccer federations at different times. So the brand has a deep-seated history connected to it, but we also are a brand that is actually about movement, right? And athletes are some of the biggest embodiers of movement.
So I've heard.
Exactly. And so when they take off their uniform, it is no surprise that they're often, been throwing on Levi's throughout history. So there's a deep, rich, and authentic connection.
Yeah.
So it very much made sense for us here at Levi's Stadium. And this is, as a brand, we're trying to show up in culture. And when we typically do it, we will do it through the prism of music. We'll do it through the prism of fashion. We'll also do it through the prism of sports. So it's something that makes sense, is fully aligned with our overall strategy. So it's something that we want to take advantage
Okay,
of.
so movement is a really good framing for the brand strategy, what the brand is all about. And correct me if I'm wrong, but like Levi's as a brand is all about progress, right? From the very beginning, it's about moving things forward. So finding these cultural spaces where movement happens, be it sport, fashion, music, makes a ton of sense. Now, you have worked at a lot of different brands, like across the spectrum, from Gatorade to McDonald's to NASCAR to Snap, now here at Levi's. What makes this brand first so exciting for you as a CMO, a celebrated rock star CMO that you are? But also, what makes it a challenge for you that makes it also equally exciting?
So what makes it exciting? I can maybe tell you a bit of a story of why I even decided to come
Yeah,
to Levi's, which is super exciting. So prior to Levi's, I spent the previous 4 years as a CMO at Snap. which was incredibly exciting. Working with a brilliant founder, working in the technology space, which is a very new category for me, moved me to the West Coast, me and my family. So it was life changing in that way. So I was chilling. Like I was pretty cool. But I get a call from the CEO at the time. His name is Chip. And Chip was doing succession planning. And so he had already identified who was going to be the CEO of the company, my current boss, Michelle. His thinking was, as you look at the future of where Levi's needs to go, one of the core strategies is going to be a world-class omni-channel retailer. So you need someone with a really strong retail background. And Michelle at the time was the CEO of Kohl's and spent a lot of her career at Starbucks. So she was a retailer, an operator, amazing leader. And Chip, on the other hand, was a self-proclaimed brand guy. So he grew up in P&G. He had run Gillette prior to coming to Levi. So he was looking for someone to be a partner to this CEO and lead this world-class brand. And his ask to me, or his brief, so to speak, was, this brand is amazing. It's iconic, but has a tremendous opportunity to show up in culture in a meaningful way, to really give it a shot in the arm. And as the CMO, I was like, hell yeah, that's a kind of an assignment I'm excited about. And I have my own personal connection to the Levi's brand. When I was growing up, me and my brother were in a breakdancing crew. And at this age,
Bring the cardboard out just a little bit.
We'd need some physicians on the side if I were to try any of that stuff. Back in the day, like our outfit, the first pair of name brand pants that I ever owned were Levi's. So we had like these deep blue Levi's jeans, an Adidas t-shirt, and some shell top Adidas. Like that was
all Run DMC. It's like
100%. You might put on some old Run DMC, and I might start twitching a little bit. So had a ton of love for the brand inherently. Went to my closet literally after the first conversation. I had a few pair of Levi's myself, so I was like, they were newer by that time. But then more importantly, I went to my daughter's closet. And was like, what does she had? And she had Levi's. And I was like, okay, like there's a there. That's pretty exciting. It's funny talking to people about Levi's. One of the things that's really interesting is, at worst, you're indifferent about the brand. There's not hate. No one's like, I hate Levi's. It's like, at worst, you're indifferent. At best, you're a passionate fan, which is amazing. But what is usually true is that people don't have recent memories of Levi's. You'd be like, oh, I love Levi's because I used to wear them back in the day, or my dad wore them, or I remember this spot from the 1990s. So part of the job is like, how do I and the team help drive that relevance, that for me relevance today, in the here and now? How do we show up in people's memory clusters? How do we show up as something that, from an unaided awareness perspective, you think about apparel, like Levi's is one of the things that you think about. And that to me has been the job. You got tons of permission for it, because the brand, doesn't have natural headwinds, but the job is to help drive that relevance and help to revive it a bit.
Yeah. So like you're balancing legacy and recency, right? Creating new moments while also paying mine and heritage to the past. And one of the first things, not the first things, but the early decisions you made as CMO was partnering with this artist. She's from Houston. She's a small artist named Beyonce. Tell us how that came about. I mean, because I feel like that, looking at it from the outside and hearing this context, gives that much more significance, much more meaning for me. So you got this artist that is relevant, extremely relevant, but also has some legacy of her own, interacting with the brand that has legacy and establishing new recency. So tell us about that, how that came to be.
So I'd say, but before Beyonce and that opportunity came to be, we were doing some work.
I mean, I'm not underselling what you did.
No. I mean, I had kind of this philosophy when I got started with Levi's that we want to basically, I called it fix the floor so we can raise the roof. So fix the floor so we can raise the roof. And I got that line from someone else. I stole it.
Just take credit for it, man. Just take it. It's
take credit for
yours. It's yours.
But the idea being, like when I first got onboarded at the company, we were missing like some of the core artifacts that one would expect. Like where's our brand book? What's our clear point of view, et cetera, et cetera. What I was hearing from the team was like it was kind of in the DNA of people, because a lot of long tenured employees that had a tremendous love for the brand. They talked a lot about authenticity. They talked a lot about originality. Talked a lot about being an icon. But some of those descriptors to me didn't feel ownable. Like if you have anyone who has apparel could try to make those claims. Matter of fact, anything that's conspicuously consumed, your car can be that, your jewelry could be that. So we went on a bit of a journey to kind of establish the brand point of view. And that journey led us to a place that was actually pretty obvious. Like when you're doing new positioning work, it's usually like right there, but you gotta like polish that shit and figure out what it was. And where we landed on was, you mentioned it, was this notion that Levi's has been and always will be about progress. And we talk about being kind of this unofficial uniform for progress, and progress.
That's a bar, by the way.
Unofficial uniform
Yes,
progress.
that's a bar.
Hey, all right. And it's this idea that like, regardless of your walk of life, you are trying to move things forward. So you can progress with a little p, just like a little personal movement, or progress with a big P. I'm trying to move society forward. And there are a ton of proof points for it that like no one else could claim, right? So I, going through our archives, I was like, oh, here's a picture of Jimmy Carter with, he's rocking his Levi's. Here's Basquiat and Warhol rocking their Levi's. Here's Steve Jobs as he introducing a new iPhone. He's wearing his Levi's.
Marilyn Monroe.
The list goes on and on.
Obama.
Einstein was rocking Levi's. But then, like, remember, those are old stories.
That's right.
So literally that same summer, I am at Fashion Week and Pharrell is rocking Levi's. So it's like that is something, and each one of them are in different categories, different walks of life, but they are all within their world are moving it forward, right? So it's like this movement in pursuit of better. And progress, the opposite of it, is going backwards. It's standing still. So we want to be about that movement, and we talked about movement before, that we want to kind of embody that and help to tell that story and partner with folks that represent that. So fast forward, our friend in Houston, the amazing Beyonce Giselle Knowles Carter. She had been a fan of the brand for quite a long time. So for the first time, I think it was 2001, when she was a part of Destiny's Child, she helped to launch a super loose product with Levi's, helped to open the flagship New York Times, New York Square. What am I talking about? Times Square.
New York Square.
New York. New York Square. Times Square.
Gotcha.
Times Square store for us. Yeah. And she has had a relationship a bit with the brand kind of over time. We've worked with her team, with her stylists. If you guys saw her concert that she did at Coachella, she had Levi's shorts on as a part of it. As she was, kind of embarking on her second chapter, and it turned out that it was, kind of connected to Americana. It was very natural that a partnership would make sense. So we started the journey to make that happen. We saw when she released her album, kind of the track listing.
Yeah.
A song called Levi's Jeans.
I know those guys.
Hey, oh shit, it's real.
So what it sounds like is that she was a good partner because she was emblematic of what the brand is all about.
Absolutely.
She's also a fan of the brand, and she is pushing her relative spaces, her contextual spaces forward, what the brand is doing as well. So when I think about like this, super dope campaign you had with Beyonce over a matter of years, like it wasn't just a flash in the pants, but then you started doing these sort of smaller micro relationships with people. Like you did De La Soul partnership. I love De La, huge De La fan. Yeah, they're dope. Also Shabuzi, like you're finding yourself with some good bedfellows. What's the rubric that you're using to say that's our kind of person. That's a Levi's person. Is it in the same context or the same filter of progress? Is it something more?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So I'd say as we started to do the work to fix the floor to raise the roof, like one of the things that we thought about is like kind of how if we are a brand that's intending to be in the center of culture, how do we want to do that?
Yeah.
And we started with the idea that Levi's is an incredibly democratic brand. I actually challenge anyone to find a more democratic brand. I was at Fashion Week in Paris in last month. We're on the runway with Sakai. I leave the Sakai runway, go to the restaurant. The person serving us also had on Levi's.
Yep.
Like it's incredibly democratic brand, incredibly elastic. So in order for us to show up, we actually have to show up in a myriad of ways. And so what we talk about is often showing up as an icon adjacent to icons in some of the biggest moments in the world, but also showing up deeply in subcultures and connecting in subcultures and doing it in an authentic way, where we have a place, a presence, a reason to be. And then we do it through the filters of music, fashion, sports, right? So as we embark on our partnerships and our collaborations, some that you described, we kind of have that lens in mind. So for example, we have a kind of a band tee program. That's where we worked with Nas a few months back, worked with De La Soul, who's also one of my favorites, worked with Oasis. Like we work with a variety of folks to kind of get deep into subcultures related to those individuals. And for the most part, those folks are also very emblematic of those who are moving their world and their genre forward.
So
right?
you're engaging again the mandate from the CEO, the past CEOs, for you to turbocharge this brand with some cultural relevance, and you start at the subcultural level, which I think is spot on, the right way to do.
Yep.
And now we're here on the big stage. This is mass culture, mass pop culture. When it comes to the Super Bowl, what story is Levi's going to tell here? I mean, like you all are showing up in the Super Bowl. You're not just hosting the world here on your home turf, but you're also showing up during the game. You are wrapping your arms around the whole thing. The stadium is yours, or at least your naming rights, but you have a spot that's running. What's the story Levi's is trying to tell us here?
Well, what I'd say is it's very consistent with our strategy. We have two major things going on. One is, and I'd encourage any of you who have the time to go by, we have our big activation that we're doing at 1 Montgomery. It's amazing. It's beautiful. If you go by.
I went yesterday. It is remarkable, like worthy of a remark. It is the dopest footprint here. I would say
it's really, really cool. And it actually is a hat tip to subculture. It's called Home Turf, and it is all about the Bay. It is so Bay coded because this is a brand that was birthed here in San Francisco. So we have a pop-up store where there's Levi's, you can do customization. So much of it is connected to San Francisco. We have a brand collaboration that we're doing with Brand Jordan. I am wearing some of that apparel right now, this jacket, these shoes that we're selling that's available at the pop-up. We're doing it in partnership with Empire Records, which is a Bay Area founded record label that have been amazing partners for us within the space. They actually have kind of a tour of the 15 years of Empire Record that celebrates all of their amazing success. In the center of it is this big homage to Bay Area artists. So there's like this big kind of wall with like literally 150 names of Bay Area artists. We have performances that are happening. Yesterday, we started with the pep rally with La Russell, who is a Bay Area artist that brought a 200-person high school marching band into the
crazy.
venue.
You have to go see this place. It's unbelievable.
And the energy was insane. His very first song was like, "I'm from the Bay." Like we were just super Bay coded. Later today, I'm actually going to leave here and go back to our activation. We recreated by piece the tiny desk setup. So we work with NPR to create a tiny desk, and we're going to have a tiny desk performance. And guess what? Best of the Bay. So we have like Guapale, Souls of Mischief, Pilo.
Souls of Mischief.
It's going to be really, really cool. And then Saturday night, we have a party that's actually not open to the public. So y'all have to know somebody to go. But that'll have Too Short, E40, and Kaylani who just won a Grammy. So it is, but it's all about the Bay. That's a very, very specific brief. So we talk about subculture, right? There's music, there's sports, there's fashion. Like we're living that component of the strategy. And then on the bigger stage, when you're saying like what story are we intending to tell, we have a campaign that is that was going to be running during the Super Bowl, which we're excited about. It's been over 2 decades since Levi's has been in the Super Bowl, and we're going to tell a story that only Levi's can tell. Tell a story, without giving away all of the juice. It's only a 30, so you can't blow it up too much. You know what I mean? But without giving away all of the juice, like Levi's uniquely has been a part of culture for decades upon decades, and is also a part of culture right now. And we're intending to tell that story, and we're celebrating kind of like the backstories and the unique stories of people that are in movement, they're moving. So the song that we use is actually a call to action to move. The imagery is all about movement. And we try to do something a little bit subversive, where a world where everyone is focused on big names and big faces, we actually are doing the opposite. So it's going to be interesting to see. Yeah.
So what does success look like? See, what you will have laid out to me is like literally like quintessential cultural strategy, right? You're going to create small fires to invite people to a bigger campfire. And you're going to use fireworks to invite even more people in. So you have great relevance and also are able to get scale. What does success look like when this is done, when everyone leaves here? What is the thing you're going to look for to be like, yeah, we did the right thing?
I want people, particularly if you're in San Francisco, to feel like you were running into Levi's. Like Levi's had a muscular and leaderly like presence in the marketplace. But kind of more importantly, I go back to the brief that I got from Chip. Chip is like, it's a dope brand. Like, he didn't use dope. Chip said. Chip said it's a great brand. It's an iconic,
fantastic brand.
It's an iconic brand that could really benefit from a shot in the arm, and has the rightful opportunity to be in the center of culture. If you take those swings, if you build that strategy and you execute with excellence. So my hope is that we are just that much more top of mind, that we are just that much more relevant, and that we continue that trend. And we're actually seeing it in our business results. So for like the last 18 months, our business has been outperforming expectations through some of the work that we're doing. And you get the little anecdotals like, I've been seeing a little bit of Levi's out in the world, and that's the job of marketing and kind of brand building and storytelling. So my hope is that people leave with a little bit more warm energy around the brand, that we're showing up in a meaningful way, and that carries forward.
Establishing the floor to raise the roof. So you're in a room full of marketers, and we're here, dearly beloved. We gathered here today to talk about brands and in sport. And your career, you've spent so much time in sport, be it Gatorade, NASCAR, and now Levi's. Unbeknownst to many of us, that Levi's has such a rich history in sports as well. Like, what are the things that make for good brand partnerships inside of a sport, be it a league like the NFL, be it the category more broadly? Like, this is sort of kind of widening the aperture here so that everyone here can walk away with a little bit more than a greater knowledge about Levi's, but also how they should be thinking about their brand engaging in these cultural spaces.
Yeah. So I can start by talking a little bit about how Levi's approaches partnerships and collaborations. We almost always do a chemistry session, like because if we're about to get married for a little bit together, like we got to make sure that these are the type of people, these are our people. These are people that we want to work with and partner with. So that chemistry piece is really critical. If you kind of ignore it, it bites you in the butt later. So making sure you're working with some like-minded people. Second, you want to make sure that you're doing something that is like additive from a strategy perspective. It's like, how are we making 1 + 1 = 3? And some magic when you think about collaborations comes from being in the quadrant of highly relevant and unexpected, right? If you like to do 4 quadrants, you can be like expected, unexpected, you can be relevant, and you can be irrelevant. A lot of collaborations are unexpected and irrelevant. And you want to stay out of that quadrant for dear life. But if it's expected and relevant, it's kind of like, so what, right? So do you want to be in the quadrant of unexpected and relevant? And so that's one of our focus areas as well. And then third, taking a line from our collaborations design leader, is we want to start with the story. Like, what is it? What is the story that we're intending to tell? And what is a story that helps to make 1 + 1 = 3, and hopefully brings both brands along for the ride. So no one's that much more dominant than the other. Like, you're bringing both along and you're telling an interesting story. And hopefully it is unexpected, highly relevant. And those are the things that break through, you know?
I love the word additive. I think that's actually a really powerful one, because in most cases, with any brands that try to be a part of culture, they see it as a place to take. We're going to come in and we're going to tap into culture. We're going to extract from culture. We're going to hijack culture. It's all very disruptive and exploitative, quite frankly. But the idea of being additive, it's like we're going to contribute something. We're bringing something. We're bringing a story to the culture that people can see themselves inside of. I think it's actually quite fitting, pardon the pun, for Levi's, because people's jeans have stories to tell. Like, whether it's breakdancing back in your Run DMC days, or it's like, I wore this at certain points in my life. Like, all these stories become ways by which people see themselves in the brand, and it feels additive as opposed to extractive. So the question kind of comes to mind for me, and put you on the spot on this one because we didn't talk about it. Like, what are the gold standard like brand campaigns when it comes to like sports and brands that you like? Oh yeah, that's the one. And you can't use Gatorade because that'll be cheating. You cannot.
I like some of my campaigns.
I know, but you can't do that. That's cheating. That's absolute cheating. So one that you did not work on, let's put it that way. Okay. Like for me, I think, well, I worked on this one, so whatever. This is a question for you, not for me. I can do this. I have the microphone. I'm asking the questions here. Like for me, it's like the Cliff Paul and Chris Paul campaign with State Farm. I worked on that. Like that for me is like, that's kind of the gold standards, because you found very relevant spaces for the brand to participate, for the collaborator, in this case, Chris Paul, to participate, and for it to be connected with the sport. What's that for you?
As you can imagine, I spent a lot of time looking at, amazing sports related advertising, and I'll try to pick a deep cut versus some of the more obvious.
That's what I was hoping for.
Yeah. So there's this one campaign. It was by Adidas. I forget what year it came out. It's focused on football, global football, soccer, and it basically has these 2 kids in a favela about to pick teams, pick sides. So one kid's picking, the other kid's picking, and they're actually picking professional players. So imagine like a dusty field with a bunch of kids, and they're like, I'm picking first. I'm taking Kaká, and then I'm taking Messi, and so each of these guys like form 2 teams, and they're playing a game of pickup soccer in a favela, and the kids are also playing.
It's like fantasy football, but in real life.
Fantasy football on steroids, and it's like, it taps into like everyone did. I grew up playing basketball, but I certainly had that same moment of picking.
He played college basketball too. Like I just got to give you some props.
Fine.
Do that for you.
All right. Well, yes. So grew up playing basketball, and I had many dreams and personal experiences of picking teams before you go out and play. And so they like really tapped into something I think really meaningful if you are a hardcore soccer fan, hardcore soccer participant, that I thought was really cool. Yeah.
I got 2 more questions for you because I think we are running up against time here. To that, on this note about like how brands participate in these cultural spaces, like what advice do you give these marketers who are out here, who are across like a mass spectrum of industries? You got, people from CPG here. You got some B2B folks in here. You got people who are into tech. Like there's so much representation here, but clearly they're in San Francisco today in this space because they know that this is where we're talking meaningful conversations about brands and culture in this particular culture culture being sport. What advice do you give them when they walk out of here and they hear the story about why you came to Levi's, what Levi's is trying to do, what it has done, and what it aspires to do? What advice do you give them to light the same fire that your old CEO gave you into them?
Amazing, amazing. Yeah, so to have two pieces of advice, maybe they're a little bit non sequitur, but I think it's somewhat important. So the first is a quote that'll be a little bit of a surprise from Dolly Parton. I'm not a big country music fan, but Dolly Parton actually had a really interesting quote about artists. And the quote was, find out who you are and be that on purpose. Right. So to find out who you are and be that on purpose. And what she was saying is like, you got to find your lane. You got to find your voice. And then once you do, you got to hit that with discipline, with consistency. And that to me is a part of what brand building is, right? So when we came in and determined Levi's brand point of view, that has now gone on to be like LS and Co, Levi Strauss and Company's company purpose. We outfit the world originals in the pursuit of progress. Like, so we've actually like codified who we are, and we're trying to be that on purpose. So it gives you a very clear lane and clear perspective of kind of what you do, who you are, and how you operate. So that I think would be part one, because sometimes you're shooting from the hip if you don't have that clarity. Yeah. And you want to have like prison yard clarity in terms of like what you're about. It's one of my favorites. The second point is, when I started at Levi's, the team was doing across the globe about 52 collaborations a year. So that's multiple a month. So we were spreading the peanut butter really thin, so nothing was breaking through. And teams were running like crazy because they wanted to take advantage of every opportunity that was presented to them. Because in the vacuum, that one makes sense, that one makes sense, that one makes sense, that one makes sense. And part of strategy is choice, right? And what you're going to do and what you're not going to do. So I am proud to say that we're doing about 8 to 10 collaborations a year now. Each one is incredibly purposeful. And we're able to load the cannon behind them to help them break through. Because we've done this same collaboration, which I love and which I'm really proud of. But if I had another one like the same week and then another one the week after, I think it's really easy to get seduced into things that like in a vacuum make sense and not have the discipline around like, what are the things I am going to do far less of, but when I do them, I'm going to do them with greater impact. And being choiceful in that way. So that actually, you were able to rattle off a few collaborations that I would argue if you had that conversation in 2023, we actually did more, but you didn't notice them.
They weren't as meaningful.
Yeah. So I think that's been helpful for us too. And I think in a world where everyone is like content, you got to make more. I want to be like Thriller. 10 songs. Best album ever. Fucking 10 songs.
Totally.
So we're trying to take that type of mindset, and I'd encourage others to think through that as well.
You've given us more bars in this session than I've heard all week. All right, last question, because I know you got to go, and I know we're running up on time here. What's next? What's next for the brand that you are helping to steward? What's next for the teams that you are leading and inspiring? And what's next for you as a leader in the industry? What are the things that are getting you excited about the future? And how are you in doing that with intentionality?
So I'm quite happy these days that we're starting to live out our strategy, and when I think about what's next, I get energized by the tremendous opportunity that this brand has in front of it. So Levi's as a brand is much bigger than the business.
Oh, say more.
Meaning, if you look at like our market cap relative to anyone you would consider a peer set, like or our global revenue relative to our peer set, our brand is actually bigger than the revenue that we actually secure.
So you're not realizing the potential.
We got a ton of headroom, and that's the shit I want to go and charge and get. So that actually really energizes me, big time. And What is also really exciting to me is that 60% of our revenue is outside of the US. It's like truly a global company with a tremendous amount of headroom in those places that we operate. So there's the challenge of having like really clear global strategies and ideas and platforms that have big shoulders, and then execute them in excellence with the idea around big iconic moments and subcultures, and like bringing that to life around the globe has me really fired up. And it feels like a really amazing frontier for the brand and how we capture some of that headspace. We set out an audacious goal as a company of, 15% EBIT and 10 billion in revenue over the course of the next several years. And like that to me has me really energized. As a company as well, we have a huge opportunity when it comes to winning with women. So our business is a little less than 40% women, a little bit more than 60% men. Apparel as a category is the opposite. So like, how do we drive that relevance? So it's no surprise with the Beyonce thing, which by the way, kind of came as a surprise, and we're motivated and moved to try to make it into a moment. It also really aligned with our strategy around winning with women. And everybody knows us for denim bottoms, and I want us to be known as a lifestyle apparel brand. So how do you tell that head to toe story? So if you start thinking, you stack all these things up: global opportunity, diversification from a gender perspective, diversification from a category perspective, and on the foundation of a solid brand, and us fixing the floor to try to raise the roof, like that has me fired up. Like I feel like there's so much to do.
And I couldn't think of a better leader to lead them forward doing that. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me thank Mr. Kenny Mitchell.